Hello folks, this is Bob C-Gar coming to you from my studio in Springfield, Oregon, which is, yes, a lawn chair in front of my garage. So what do we got to talk about today? Well, I'd like to say, let's talk about this Epstein stuff. I think my take on it is we're probably never going to know exactly what the story is. It probably was, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's probably pictured as a bigger thing than it was, as bad as it was. Kind of like the Diddy stuff. I mean, as bad as it was, it probably, the cases, either the cases, and I say both of them, either they were not prosecuted in a way where they really wanted to make people pay, or they were prosecuted in a way that was totally incompetent. I tend to think it was probably the first one. But now Trump is basically saying, yeah, nothing to see here, let's move on. I'm not saying that I agree with him, but I'm not saying that he's wrong either. I think there was probably a whole lot of criminality by very powerful people, very influential people, but probably a situation where, maybe they had girls that were 18 and 19 years old as opposed to kids, even though that's basically kids when you're talking about people that are 50, 60, 70 years old that are extremely powerful. Yeah, it's pretty weird, pretty sick, but maybe not criminal. The other thing is that it's hard for me to understand how they could have charged Epstein and convicted Ghislaine Maxwell if they didn't have real cases that they were working on. So I think they do need to let people know what those cases were. And maybe because of things getting sealed by judges, maybe that's really not possible. I don't know. My guess is that probably any files of people they were protecting have already been burned and disposed of, and you're never going to see them. So there's probably, Trump might be right in the fact that, he's accomplishing an awful lot. Things are moving in the direction he wants to see them move in. And I think he wants people to focus on the wins. And I get that. I know we look at, stock market, he was going to crash the stock market, with the tariffs and send us into a recession and, everything. No, stock market's back where it was, no recession. Jerome Powell will not lower the interest rates, and I think Trump has I'm not an economist and don't claim to be, but I think he does probably have some legitimate grounds to have a beef with that. I think he wants to lower the interest rates so that the interest on the deficit will not be, won't be, won't have to pay as much. I think if we look at the big beautiful bill, I'm sure there's a lot of crap in there that none of us like. But some of the surface stuff, having a $6,000 deduction if you're on Social Security per person, or 12,000 for a couple. That's a pretty healthy. If you're in a lower income tax bracket, that's pretty helpful. Probably in any tax bracket, it's helpful. But I'd be interested to see how that is all calculated, how it shakes out. We still going to get our $24,000 deduction before anything, and then 12 on top of that, it's 36,000. Man, you're down there where, you're not going to be paying a lot of taxes. You're going to be in pretty good shape. If you're on Social Security and, as a pension or something. So that can be real good for seniors. I think the no tax on tips up to $25,000. At first I thought, why put a limit on it at $25,000? And then, I think that's probably a good thing, because most of the people that are in the service industry that are making, good share of their money on tips, $25,000 might be half of what they're making a year. That's pretty doggone good. And the other 25 they're probably making on salary, so they're still probably getting to write off the majority of their tips. And then that does probably make it so people won't just say, I don't want a salary, just give me tips. And so I don't have to pay any taxes. And I think that's probably fair. I think that's a good way to do it. The SALT, state and local tax deduction, I think they're limiting that to 30,000 or 36,000 or 40,000, something like that. That's a lot of money. But that's going to help. That's going to help everybody, but that's going to help the high middle comers or middle incomers. People making 150 to 200 grand a year. That it's going to help them out a lot. That's a big deduction. In states like California, Oregon, New York, that's going to help them. So I know that red states don't like it, because they're like, why are we subsidizing their taxes? And I agree with their sentiment. But I also understand that everybody wants lower taxes, and that helps. And you have Republicans in blue states that, those are things like that help them get reelected. It's a good thing for them. So I'm okay with it. I'd like to see, Trump wants to get these tariffs going to where, if you make less than $150,000 a year, you don't pay taxes. I mean, that's incredible. That would be incredible. I don't know that that's going to happen. But I do think the idea is great. Sorry about that, little cigar wrapper on my tongue. Anyway, just what I want to talk about is just, if you're a Republican, things are going pretty good for you. If you're a Democrat, things are going pretty good for you. You may not like some of the details, but in the big picture, things are definitely moving in a positive direction. Stock market's going up. Value of gold is holding steady, gone up considerably over the last couple of years. Silver is starting to roll a little bit. They just signed the Genius Bill. I don't know who names these things, the Genius Bill, but it's supposed to, really help the crypto market. I don't know anything about crypto, other than I don't know anything about crypto. But I know supposedly it's a good thing, We'll see how that all works. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful here in Oregon. It's hot every places, but man, 80, 85, with a breeze. It's pretty good. Take care. Have a good weekend. Sayonara.